What is going on, everybody? Special edition live show because we were supposed to this morning be covering the announcement of the Supreme Court and whether or not they were going to block or approve the Trump tariffs. Well, it turns out they came out not that long ago and they decided to tell us that's not happening. We put this out on our X account. If you're not following us on our X account right now, go do that right now, the Tim Warren account. But yeah, disappointment. Supreme Court will not rule in the Trump tariffs case today. We're going to discuss what that means. By the way, I kind of bridged that wrong. I hit the wrong button to bring both of them on the screen. Spoiler, Shrum is here today, everybody. If you guys have been missing him, he is here. If you're wondering where he's been, he's doing a lot of stuff in the background. He has his own morning news channel right now, Taylor Shrum. Go follow him over on YouTube. But we were supposed to go live this morning to discuss this tariff announcement. It did not come to be. Is this in your mind, Shrum? Let's get into it. Just a quick question here. Then we'll look at some charts and then get back into some further stuff. But quickly, do you see this as a good thing or a bad thing that the tariff announcement has not come out? It won't come out till next week, obviously. It's Friday today.
Yeah, I guess the question is like bad for who, right? I think for folks who are holding risk, like on the stock side or Bitcoin or Ethereum, I think you have to be a little bit more nervous now than before because of what came out before they decided not to release the verdict, the opinion today. And that was the likely future Fed chair, Kevin Hassett, came out and said that he believes the Supreme Court will rule favorably for the Trump administration's use of general tariffs. And so that's going to be what I've learned to call the IEEPA tariffs. IEEPA are the ones that are being challenged by Learning Resources Incorporated v. Trump. So I would say that you're a little bit more nervous, right? Because why? Because there's a strong chance that the Supreme Court is going to rule that IEEPA tariffs, right, the broad sweeping tariffs, not just the ones that have specific defense, national security interest tariffs, that those are going to be constitutionally protected for the executive branch. And that's going to have all kinds of implications down the road for future presidents. But for the stock market and for crypto today, that could potentially be downside risk. So now the question becomes, when the heck are they going to release their opinion?
And this is the big question right now. We're going to look at the charts here in a second, because don't listen to what I'm about to say and say that's the case here. My brain would have thought, Shrum, I'm curious if you think this way. People in chat, let me know if you guys think this way as well, or if you're vice versa. My thought would be the delay of today. When I saw the announcement, they weren't going to announce it today. I was like, okay, this is probably good news for Trump tariffs. In fact, if you look at the poly market spread on this, this has been really low. It's right now at 26%, but it shot up this morning to 40% likelihood they were going to rule in favor of the Trump tariffs, meaning allow them to stay, right? During that, when that announcement went up, the price of Bitcoin and other cryptos began to fall. And it makes sense. Good news for Trump tariffs, meaning they get to stay around, could, and that's the key word here, could cause 2026 to still be an economic uncertainty. Like, we don't know when he's going to whip out this brand new tariff. So good news for Trump tariffs could be bad news for crypto and risk on assets. Now, bad news for tariffs, if they were to remove them, or at least say, hey, you know what? The existing ones can stay, but no new tariffs whatsoever. That could be very positive for crypto, because you start to have some certainty about where price is going to sit long term. I know you might have some thoughts on that later on the show we'll discuss here, but it doesn't really matter what I thought would have happened, because what's important to go look at is the price chart right now. Let's go take a look at that. Bitcoin, and I'm on the daily chart right here. It's going to look a little bit better when I go to the 1 hour chart. Bitcoin surging here within the last couple of minutes. We were literally right before going live down here below 90K. We are now about to be back over 92,000 within 6-7 minutes. Let's look at the 5-minute chart here. I exaggerated, 10 minutes. Look at what we have going on in just the last couple 5-minute candles right here. We're surging right now, and we'll have to take a look at what that means. Quickly, let me cover some charts here, and I want to get back into discussion because there was other news stories that do have impact on the market here. I want to discuss and break down with Shrum. I've not said this already. If you guys are glad we're doing a special edition live show today, even though we aren't getting the tariff announcement, smash the like button right now. I know a lot of you guys love our live shows. You love having Shrum here. Let me bring him back on. You guys love seeing Shrum. Here's the thing. If you guys want to see more like this, just smash the like button. Let's get the views up. Let's get the thoughts up. We do have a reason as to why we're doing more uploads. We're really trying to help people. We're spending a lot of time with our paid members over in the VIP chat. But if you guys are grateful, thankful, and love these live shows, smash the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Let's get back into that chart real quickly for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, again, kind of bouncing up here nicely. I'm really glad. I was actually just talking to my my VIP traders here a little bit ago. I was starting to feel when we started dropping here, I told them, I was like, hey, you know, just be aware. I made that video yesterday saying that we had some good support from the 4-hour chart. If I let this load here, we had some good support. We had some buy signals coming in the 4-hour chart, but I was very aware of that rising green line and the order block of buy signals that would be in effect here at 88.5. So I told my group, like, hey, I'm going to stay in my longs, but I wouldn't be surprised if we come down to 88.5. Very glad I stayed in my longs because we just shot up above the highs from yesterday. And signals right now are saying the next two targets to look for on the 4-hour chart, we're looking back up here at 93,000. I still think it's a really good idea to watch and wait for a bigger breakout. Again, the 4-hour buy signals coming in, the weekly buy signals coming in. We had our correction from the daily sell signal. Resistance at 94.3. Resistance at 94.3, this flat red line. It might be resistance again. I'm not going to rule out a move like this, okay? This could absolutely happen. Heck, with the way this chaos happened this morning, this could be a fake out, and we could do this move and then go back up. My point here, though, that I need people walking away with is this flat level of resistance marked with the continual uptrend of support forms a very important pattern called an ascending triangle pattern. Historically, these are very bullish and should send Bitcoin to the upside. Will we go as high as this formation suggests? I don't know about that one. If this breakout were to happen the way triangles are meant to play, this would send us all the way up to 110,000 easily. I think there's going to be at least a little bit of wrestling with the 200-day moving average around 103, 105, but very bullish should this formation play out to the upside. And like I said, the reason I'm feeling still confident about a good move up is this weekly chart. And with our flow signals indicator, you just don't ignore these signals. These signals are phenomenal. This signal right here, the money flow, phenomenal. Again, we're talking about situations like April, September of 24, September 23. These are great, great buy signals right now for Bitcoin. So keep an eye on those ones. I'm not going to address too many altcoins here today. This is a live show. We'll have some Q&A maybe at the end. We might have time to go over one or two altcoins, but I want to flip away from crypto for a second and take a look at some other things kind of emerging here today. For example, we got silver bouncing pretty well back up to 79.77, making a move back up towards $80. Now, you guys know that I made a video that I took profits at $80 back here on December. It was right after Christmas. I don't remember the exact day. Maybe the day after Christmas. We bounced back up, double top to that level. I told you guys, hey, be careful here because you are starting to see on silver, and I keep using a marker tool. Apologize, everybody. We had a bearish divergence, still extremely overbought daily chart that came in here. Sell signal came in here. It was kind of telling me, hey, silver, be careful. But I want to make sure I'm very open with people about where I'm thinking right now. I'm not bullish necessarily on silver. We need to see another move here to confirm this. But just like Bitcoin is in an ascending triangle, silver, it really looks like we might have an ascending triangle as well, right? This rising level of support. We've now had 3 touches on that support line. We've had a double top. If we can see silver make it back up here, I'm not saying that this is impossible. I'm not saying that's impossible. What I'm saying is if we maintain this support level on silver, and if we get a breakthrough, especially if we get some increased volume on a breakthrough on this red line, I would go back in on silver. I would say, all right, you know what? I know I took profit at $80 because there were very good technical reasons to say, you know what? Silver's a little overbought. Let's look for a correction. But if the bulls want to push on through, I'm not going to ignore the bullish signal. I would be rebuying silver just above $80, above that red line on a high volume breakout, because that could be a major move for silver. One of the big reasons silver and gold, by the way, are rallying here today. There's a lot of protests and stuff going on right now in Iran. I've seen a lot of people tagging online the connection between the protests in Iran and what's happening now with gold and silver, with uncertainty when it comes to fiat currencies. So people kind of going deeper into gold and silver right now to hedge against it. And again, whatever's happening right now, I don't even fully necessarily understand the fundamental reason why Bitcoin is rallying based off the news we've had here today, but it is rallying. And that brings me to the next statement. Again, we might have some more charts later on, but that kind of covers the brief depiction of what I want to do with charts. Bitcoin's up this morning, gold and silver up this morning. Let's just look real quickly. S&P 500, not doing anything crazy special, but it is sitting back towards all-time highs. We're breaking through some resistance we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Next target I have for the S&P 500 up here at $700. This is all very, very good stuff. Something to be aware of as we start to move into some more news, though. And actually, I won't show that one. Let's show which one was it? There we go. Some other breaking news happening this morning, and I'm going to bring Shrum back in here on this one. Non-farm payroll, December is 50,000, expectation 70,000. Unemployment rate. This is a big one right here because you might feel mixed results on this one, but the unemployment rate was expected to be at 4.5%. It last time was at 4.6%. It came in under at 4.4%. What does this mean? It means there's a very little chance, very little likelihood that the Fed is going to cut rates here in a couple of weeks in January. Does that mean it's bearish, though? I have my opinion, but I want to first ask Shrum his take on this situation. Break down for me, before we get back into tariff conversation, because I want to get back into that one as well. How are you reading this news this morning on unemployment coming in lower? Does this cause the Fed maybe to redirect their attention back from unemployment back to inflation? All of a sudden, rate hikes are on the table. Where do you see this kind of coming in and being for the markets today?
Yeah, well, I think on the surface it's a wash. Like you have the unemployment, which was favorable for the economy, meaning unfavorable for rate cuts, and then you had the non-farm payrolls, which were generally unfavorable for the economy and the labor market. So that would be favorable towards the rate cuts. So it's kind of a wash, right? If I was in Jerome Powell's seat, given Jerome Powell's history and how he views the data, I think he puts a little bit more weight on the unemployment rate. But right now, he's using data. He's trying to understand data that's coming from a Bureau of Labor Statistics that was shut down for a month, right? So I don't know how much he trusts the data. In fact, in the last press conference, he kind of broke precedent and said that he thinks that the Bureau of Labor Statistics are overstating certain metrics by 60,000, referring to the labor side. So I actually think the devil's actually a little bit deeper down in the details where we get the revisions. So there were negative revisions. October revised down 68,000 from 105 to 173,000. November was revised down by a little bit more modestly by 8,000. But the point is that they're revising the labor numbers in the negative direction for labor market, right? Meaning plus for rate cuts. But then I go over to Polymarket, and the rate decision, the probability is like 4% that they're going to cut in January. So the way that I would describe it is that the rate cuts are still on the table. If I'm Jerome Powell, I'm not cutting in January. I don't think there's an argument to be made from Jerome Powell's perspective. They're just going to do what they did in 2024. They cut in September and then 2 more. They just did the same thing in 2025. Cut in September and then 2 more, and then just let the rest of the year ride. And he knows that he's going to be out by May, and then it's going to go into Clown Town, and the Federal Reserve is just going to go full in alignment with what the current executive administration of the United States wants. So
interesting.
I think overall it's a wash, but if you look down into the details, a rate cut is still on the table for January.
Yeah, I think it's on the table. I think it's unlikely, though. And I've said this for a couple of weeks now. We're not expecting, 8 rate cuts in 2026, right? We're expecting, I think Jerome Powell's kind of insinuated 1 or 2. I think the bulls are still predicting 3. I think 3 to 4 is the realistic expectation, even with a new Fed chairman that's coming in May. So to think that we have to have a rate cut in January or else things get bearish, that's not the case. And I'll go a step further here with what I think this news means. I was telling Shrum this morning, and I want to kind of say to you guys, I see someone in chat, Felix, kind of said no recession, Tim. That's what this means. Felix, I don't think you're far off on the details here. At the end of the day, what we have been dealing with for the last year and a half, 2 years is, will they cut rates? What are they looking at? We know unemployment is starting to tick back up, but we also know inflation's not quite where it wants to be. The reason they've been cutting rates recently is because they've been saying that the unemployment issue is a bigger issue than inflation. Okay. So with unemployment rising as a bigger issue than inflation, you're going to cut rates even if inflation is not where you want it, because you just cannot allow, if you're the Fed, you don't want to allow us to get into a recession with massive unemployment numbers. Look at the history. Recessions happen very quickly when unemployment skyrockets from things around the level where they currently are. So there's going to be people out there that think this is bearish. If unemployment goes down, maybe the Fed turns their attention back towards inflation, wants to raise rates. I don't think that's the case. Unless unemployment numbers start dropping back down below 4%, we want unemployment to stop going crazy high. Like, we don't want unemployment to shoot up to 5, 6, 7%. That would cause a major recession. It doesn't matter if they start slashing rates left and right. When people are that unemployed, when there's that much panic and fear, people dump risk on assets. When you head into a massive recession, crypto would crash, the stock market would crash, gold and silver would probably continue to skyrocket, but it would be very, very bad, right? Very, very bad. What we want to see in 2026 is inflation get under control and not continue to go out of control. And we want to see unemployment stop and just stay kind of right where it is, which is what is happening right now. This would allow the Fed to still cautiously decide, hey, we'll cut here, we'll pause here, but allow the economy to get more stability and get spending to go up, to get liquidity to go up, which, by the way, liquidity continues just to skyrocket. The Fed just continues to dump money back in. We don't want to see unemployment keep rising. I think this is actually very good news for the market, Strum. I think this is very good news to see unemployment give a slight tick down, not be out of control, not be where we want it to be, right? No one wants unemployment at 4.4%. We want to see that come back down, but we do not want to see this keep climbing up towards 5%. So I see this as actually a very bullish thing for the markets overall. Yeah. Let's get back into, though, the main topic of the day. Welcome everybody who's just joining us. If you missed the intro, the Supreme Court was supposed to give a decision today on the Trump tariffs, and they decided they're not giving that decision today. And so far, markets are actually responding quite nicely to it. But I want to get back into some conversation here with Shrum, starting off with, there's a tweet that you've been looking at and referencing. I want you to kind of walk us through this from Michael Brown. What is going on here? What are some details about this lack of announcement, but what we're waiting for possibly next week that could have major impacts on markets?
Yeah, scroll up a little bit to where folks can see the graph. Yeah. So this is the term that if you want to get nerdy, and really drill into this, it's that acronym up there at the top right-hand corner, the IEEPA, the IEEPA tariffs. So there's two kinds of tariffs, right? There are general, kind of broad, sweeping tariffs, and those are what are before the Supreme Court, right? And those, the argument to those who would oppose Trump's tariffs, the argument is that IEEPA tariffs need to go through Congress. They need to be passed through Congress. And then there's the other tariffs. So there's the first one's the general tariffs. The second ones are the ones that you see there on the chart, right? And those are ones that the executive branch through the Commerce Department can just levy in the same way that, they're the chief of the military, right? They control, the executive branch controls the military. They have some tariff powers or tariff-like powers that they can control. And that's what you see before you. That's the section 232, 201, 301, 122. Remember, this is very inside baseball for Washington. You don't need to understand this stuff to be a successful crypto trader or investor. But essentially, what Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, and what last night Howard Lutnick explained on the All In podcast is, regardless of what the Supreme Court decides and the opinion that they bring out, there's going to be a path to the Trump administration continuing to do what they've been doing with tariffs, right? And they're just not going to be able to do it as easily, it seems, through the general tariff side, which needs to go through Congress. But there's also a lot of nuance, Tim, and I think that what Scott Bessent said actually on the All In podcast 2 weeks ago, he said that people are going to be surprised by the Supreme Court decision, that it's not going to be black and white, that it's not going to be that the IEEPA tariffs can be used or they can't be used. And if the money is going to have to be returned in whole or it can be kept in whole, there's going to be a lot of shades of gray. And the market doesn't like uncertainty. So the moment that all that decision comes out, I think that there can be a lot of volatility and uncertainty because the robo traders aren't going to be able to interpret that clearly. But I think within a couple of hours, the market will understand what that means. And I think what it ultimately shakes out as, regardless of the outcome here from the Supreme Court, is that the market has likely already priced in what is going to take place. Because if you game theoretic this, the Supreme Court keeps the tariffs. Well, the tariffs are already priced in. The market has already priced in what that means for the global economy and the American economy. If the Supreme Court rules them down, okay, well, the Trump administration, likely through the non-IEEPA tariff powers, are going to be able to come in and just do essentially the same thing with maybe a couple here and there that they can't do. And that's where the opportunity lies, by the way. Because if you understand where the IEEPA and non-IEEPA tariffs are not going to overlap, then you can go make money. So let's for example, let's say Toyota is not going to be able to be tariffed through the non-IEEPA tariffs. All of a sudden, Toyota's stock might go up quite a bit. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, just an example. So that's what that graph means to me, Tim.
But here's the thing: at the end of the day, a lot of people, Shrum, they just want their goods and services to go down. That they just want to make everything cheaper.
Oh yeah,
I think this is a conversation. Maybe even have another day. It's just not simple. There's these things that can play out that bring short-term amazing bullish price action, but long-term catastrophic for Americans everywhere. Versus the other side is like maybe there's a little bit of pain that has to happen to make long-term prosperity. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of things that kind of suggest, let's pretend the tariffs are shot down. Let's pretend not just even you can't create new tariffs. Let's just say that the Supreme Court decides existing tariffs and future tariffs unconstitutional, wipe them all out. Trump has to refund American companies, by the way. Everyone thinks that he's had to refund like the other countries. No, he would the import manufacturing companies, he would have to send the money back to them. So it stays here in the United States. Prices could or stocks could go up. Prices of goods and services could drop. Americans could feel very good, but the power America would lose on the global stage. I think you were telling me before the show, if that is the decision, does China beat America in the next 15 to 20 years? Like, I know it seems like a long time up, but we're talking about our children. We're talking about the world our children will live in. Will our children live in a world where China dominates the United States just so that we can have a couple years of prosperity in the stock market and cheaper goods and services? Vice versa, do we deal with some consequences of higher prices, have these tariffs stay in effect that make it harder for us to live, but we set up our children in a world where, again, hopefully America doesn't go down a bad road where we're still a free country. This is still the pinnacle of democracy in the world, at least, in a form of democracy, and China doesn't win. It really does kind of beg the question, what is the better long-term solution? I'm hoping there's some sort of a balance where, hey, we can pause inflation, goods and services don't get ridiculously out of control, but we also set America up in a spot where we're competitive. Other countries aren't ripping us off. American workers can get back to work and produce things. And I don't wish death upon any other country. I don't want to see another country's economy just collapse. But I do think the world is better when America is on top and is the key decision maker. I think it'd be pretty bad worldwide if China became the superpower of the world.
Yeah. Man, it's an interesting time to be alive, right? I'm very glad to be alive now. There's so much that can go on.
Yeah.
And so much opportunity out there. If you study a part of the economy and be disciplined in that study, you can make a lot of money because you'll understand more than the average person of how certain asset prices are going to move as a result of geopolitical events. So there's a lot we could say, but I'm just glad to be a part of a community who does have our head around, the crypto market specifically, much more than the average person at a desk trading assets. And that's why we do well in our trading groups.
Right.
Very, very grateful for that.
Really quickly, if you guys, I mentioned it earlier, if you are not following Shrum, if someone out there has been saying, man, where's Shrum been? I miss Shrum. Shrum's been over here. Again, we still have a whole company. We have, of course, our Crux of Crypto channel. You guys know and love Crux. Shrum started, there's a morning show right now where I'm not going to say every morning because sometimes there's no news. So when there's no news, Shrum's not going live, right? He's not going to waste your time. He's not going to waste his time. But when there's hard-hitting news, you guys got to make sure you are following Taylor Shrum on YouTube right now. Taylor Shrum Crypto News, or at Taylor Shrum Crypto News. Again, every morning he's out here. Not this morning because we're over on my channel, but make sure you're following him right now. Go hit subscribe right there. Let's get Shrum up over 10,000 subscribers here very quickly. He's at 6.72. Let's get it a little bit higher. I want to get into a short period of Q&A here this morning. Again, if you're just joining us, we thought we'd be able to cover the ripple effects of the decision from the Supreme Court. They have decided they're not giving that announcement today. They didn't even say like, oh, we're waiting for later today. They're not going to, they didn't give us a date. Like, we don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. Does the Supreme Court rule over the weekends? We don't know if it's going to happen on the weekend. We don't know if it's going to happen early, late next week. At the moment, markets seem to be responding well to this. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. We will cover when the decision is made. We will go live and we will cover the immediate impact and what that looks like. But I wanted to answer some questions. Someone did just put in here, I think this is Felix again. He said, will tariffs crash Bitcoin back in 2025? So I'm guessing no tariffs will pump Bitcoin, right? Question mark. That would be the assumption, Felix. I think the odds would say if the announcement from the Supreme Court is we're removing all current tariffs, or at least saying, well, we can keep the current ones and not create any new ones, that is a world in which case, if you're looking at a price chart right now, more than likely Bitcoin and your cryptocurrencies are going to increase. I think a decision, and I'm not going to call this a crash, I think a decision where they say, nope, we are going to approve them and just let him do whatever he wants to do. I think you see some short-term volatility. And the reason why is because the same way last year, if you remember the markets back in February and March of 25, we crashed not because the tariffs caused some sort of immediate big issue. It was the uncertainty of what could this possibly mean for the price of services, for the economy. What does this mean for our relationships with other countries? There was just so much unknowns. Markets don't like unknowns. So the markets crashed. If that happens, there's a world in which there's a lot more question marks about unknowns. Will he have new tariffs? How far can this go? That would be a scenario where if they say, nope, he's allowed to do whatever he wants, then we could see a small-term pullback in the crypto markets. I think, though, I think there's a lot of people trying to act like they're either going to approve them or flat out deny them. I think Shrum laid out a great situation. I actually think the most likely scenario probably is we're going to allow the existing ones, but there's going to be very stringent stipulations on what any new tariff looks like. I think that if you're a betting odds person on this, I don't know, does Polymarket have an odds on that specific nature of the decision?
If it's going to be granular or binary?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
See, that's like, I would say that would probably be, in my opinion, the most likely scenario, especially with this delay. Like, I think that's the other thing is if they were just going to kill him, why is the decision not out today? There's probably further conversations going on. There's probably, I don't want to say negotiations because the Supreme Court really shouldn't be negotiating, but there's a lot of thought going into it. I think this speaks good news to anyone who wants to keep tariffs around. I think this is more than likely saying a complete ban and backtrack on tariffs is probably unlikely based off this delay. But we'll have to wait next week and kind of see how that goes out.
Yeah.
Any other questions here in chat for me or Shrum?
I'll say that I feel like Roy said it pretty well here. Roy 85th said Supreme Court gives a couple days notice on decisions. I said something else that was better than that. Goodness, where was that? Basically, he said it doesn't matter for the markets because Trump is going to have a workaround, right? And Bessett's been saying that. Howard Lutnick said that. And I do think that if you look at the S&P 500 tickling 7,000 all-time highs, it's like clearly the stock market's not flinching. They don't think that this is going to be catastrophic because the markets are forward-looking.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like I'm not predicting a crash if they're just allowed. I'm predicting volatility. I think volatility is what you should expect if the Supreme Court comes out and says, yeah, he can do whatever he wants, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. As we try to decide, is that good? Is that bad? I think it's pretty well known getting rid of them is going to be good. Why? Just because all of a sudden inflation is going to go down, costs of things will get cheaper. That's where we're kind of dealing with. I really think almost all scenarios still lead towards bullishness, but there's one scenario that slows it down, and that is a complete, hey, he's allowed to do whatever he wants decision. I would be surprised, Shrum, if that's the decision that happens. I'm leaning towards that. Hey, keep the current ones, but for all future ones, you have to have a certain, like, they're not going to rule that tariffs in general are illegal. They're probably just going to rule that from here on out, Trump can't decide them by himself. He's going to have support from the rest of the government to do so.
Yeah. Or like, that if you break down the sections that the executive branch do have the powers, and the Supreme Court is not even considering whether or not they do or don't have the powers, is Section 232 is threat to national security. So if they can make an argument that there's a threat to national security, fentanyl, right? Section 201, injury to domestic industry, that's pretty broad. Section 301, discrimination against U.S. businesses or violating the U.S. rights under trade agreements, still pretty broad. Section 122, international payment problem. So all this is really, if the courts strike this down and they say, hey, you got to stop these broad tariffs, is the executive branch is going to say, okay, well, we got these other set of powers. It's going to be more complicated for us to institute these tariffs through these powers, 232, 102, 301. But, we have computers, and computers can do things very easily, and they can, spreadsheets exist. We don't have to, we're not limited with our intelligence capabilities. We can just use a spreadsheet and keep track of it in a different way, instead of having the luxury of just doing broad-based tariffs, which, the argument is that the Constitution states that Congress has to do the broad country by country tariffs. So
agreed.
And hopefully the Supreme Court will shed some light on that part of it as well. But my understanding is that the Constitution is pretty clear that what Donald Trump is doing is illegal. However, there's powers on the other side that are given to the executive branch that he can do a legal version of those very easily.
Well, there you go. Guys, we're going to wrap up this live stream here. Go ahead and drop in the comments. I would encourage you, drop it in the comment section. I know if some of you guys are watching live, you might drop it there. Go in the comment section. Give us your opinion on, do you think tariffs are banned, allowed, and what that means for the markets going forward? Would love to hear your guys' opinion. Love your feedback. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe. Here's the deal, though. As a trader, as an investor, what I'm mostly concerned with is, what does this mean for the price market? I'm going to be trading this. I'm going to be looking at things. I'm in some trades. If you want to see how I'm trading it, how our other pro traders are trading it, there's two ways you can go about getting in and being a part of our group. Number one, just go join the VIP group right now. You get a free indicator, a live chat with hundreds of other traders that are constantly talking about all breaking news, all breaking movements. If there's ever a big volume breakout coming or resistance is broken, the first people that know about it are the people in our chat. So go check that out right now. It is an amazing opportunity. The other, if you're not ready to go in that deep, but you want to see how we're trading and be a part of our live trading sessions, which, by the way, I'm going to be going live here in about an hour for the VIP trading group, go sign up for Toobit. It is our recommended exchange. Deposit $100 or more into Toobit. Use VIP level 1 fees. And when you send proof of deposit over to our email, again, all that in the description, you get free access to my live trading sessions, to Rufio or other pro traders' live trading sessions, and you can trade with us and see what we are doing. So go check those out right now in the link down below. Thank you so much for being with us on this special live edition. Shout out to Shrum. Go follow him over on YouTube as well. Smash like, hit subscribe. We'll see you next time. Adios, everybody.